haven't taken the photo off. Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham. This is a Friday lunch hour. Was going to be joined by Brian Daigle, but unfortunately he can't make it. Hopefully Bobby K will towards the end of the show. We're here for an hour, but it may be slightly shorter. You'll be pleased to know you only have to listen to me for possibly less than an hour. But we are back to Angie Ball for at least another month anyway, before the next international break. After this international break has happened, we're talking about that. Harry Kane's comments, a little older now, but obviously happened. Richarlison struggles. We've won Player and Manager of the Month. Dier and Lloris are in the squad, and we've got Sheffield United to come on Saturday to talk about all that and much, much more. Come and get involved. Join in the chat. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe. Notification bell. If you like a bit of magic, do the same on Chris's Magic as well. Let's get started. So, there was a challenge on Romero in the international break. Looked horrendous, treading on his ankle pretty much. Luckily, it doesn't seem to have affected him or injured him or anything like that. So it looks to be that he's going to play against Sheffield United. There's been no damage. But international football, it was in a friendly where Argentina won fairly comfortably against a team who won't be in the World Cup or something like that. Far, far below the level. It's just international football, certainly friendlies, are just getting to be a bit of a waste of time. You know, Spain playing Malta, I think it was, and absolutely battered them in a friendly. And, I mean, this guy in the Argentina game got sent off. It's a friendly, it's supposed to be a friendly anyway. I know England-Scotland was a friendly, but there's not really any such thing when it comes to those two teams. But, yeah, I just... This is what happens in international football nowadays. You know, it's not so much worrying about the result. It's worrying who's going to get injured. Luckily, we seem to have come back without any injury issues, which is obviously good. That's what you want. But again, we go through this in another month. And then obviously the African Cup of Nations is slightly different because that is an actual tournament. It's exactly the same as the World Cup. It's just the World Cup. Apart from last year, obviously, it happens outside of the Premier League season. So you've got time to recover from there. But, you know, this international break, if one of our players breaks his leg, transfer window is closed. You know, it happens for every team as well. But, yeah, I mean, international friendly, don't expect challenges to be flying in like that. Van de Ven was another injury concern, but he seems to have been okay. He wasn't included in the squad. There was talk that he wasn't included in the squad because of injury, but that doesn't seem to have happened either. So hopefully we'll have our two central defenders playing together against Sheffield United. So hopefully that's the case, and hopefully we can keep them fit all season. I've talked about this before, but I do worry if one of our central defenders gets injured long term, who comes in to replace him. Talk about that a bit later on. And then we move on to another guy, Richarlison. Sure you all saw this as well, in tears when he got taken off against Brazil. People at the time thinking it was all to do with football and just upset about being taken off. But he's come out and said it's nothing to do with that. It's to do with a lot of things on his mind, in particular, people he trusted in his own camp who turned out not to be who he thought they were, but they were just interested in taking his money. I can only imagine what that is like, that someone you've trusted and then they turn out to just have an ulterior motive. It must be feeling like a huge sense of betrayal. And he's obviously gone, they're in his camp close to him, so he's obviously got close to them. And essentially now he's had to cast them out and they're just interested in his money. Didn't say anything about what has actually happened. It was just that, and going to seek a psychological help, which is obviously good. I mean, he's had his criticism in terms of playing football, which is fair enough. We paid a lot of money for him. But it seems to be evident now that it wasn't to do with the fact that he wasn't bothered or ability or anything like that. It's to do with this extracurricular, extra football stuff. So it's kind of understandable why he wasn't performing. So hopefully now this person is away, or these people are away. He can focus on the football and focus on the people that he's got around him, who are people who he can trust. And the psychological help will help him hopefully deal with anything in the future that troubles him. But in terms of criticism for playing football previously, I can understand that. But any criticism for this, I think, is absolutely deplorable. I haven't seen any on Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere like that, which is obviously good. It cannot be criticised, any of this stuff, because it's personal stuff. And criticising football matches, oh, you should have scored that goal, is absolutely fair enough. Criticising reactions to this and a sense of betrayal from someone who was close to you, who you trusted, and cannot be criticised at all. So nothing but respect for Richarlison for coming out and saying this and trying to get some help as well. Nothing but respect. And hopefully he can get the psychological help. And hopefully that will translate to performances on the pitch and goals on the pitch. And hopefully all the kind of bad eggs in his camp, or whatever you want to call it, are out now. So he's only surrounded by people who he trusts, who he can trust. And wish him all the best there. Let me come on to someone who doesn't play for us anymore, but he had some thoughts. Harry Kane. I'm sure you all saw this as well. It's a bit older now. I was on Harry Scarf's show and Let's Talk Sports last week as well. Let's Talk Tottenham didn't happen, but I was on those shows giving my thoughts about this. But on here, let's give our thoughts. So he essentially said at Bayern Munich, it's big club mentality because it's a disaster if you don't win a match or two. At Spurs, we wanted to win, but it wasn't a disaster if we didn't win. Two points from me really on this. I would imagine it's probably spot on at Tottenham in terms of the hierarchy. You know, it's all about the top four, getting in the top four. So if you lose a couple of matches, but you're still in the top four race, it's probably not a disaster. Whereas Bayern Munich are expected to win every single game and win the league. So losing a game obviously puts that at risk. So I would imagine what he said there, Harry Kane, is absolutely spot on. But the issue that I have with it is Harry Kane didn't have to accept that it wasn't a disaster when he was here. He was supposed to be, one of the senior figures, certainly towards the end when he was here. He was vice captain. Obviously, Lloris got injured long term, so therefore he was captain. Nothing told Harry Kane that he had to accept it was okay to lose a couple of games. And this is where it's called into question quite a lot, Harry Kane, about whether he's a big game mentality, whether he's got the mentality to be a winner. And this, to me, suggests that it's a no, because if Cristiano Ronaldo was in our team and it wasn't a disaster if we lost a couple of matches, it would be for him. And he'd be going into the dressing room to the players and everyone like that, trying to ensure that they don't lose any games. He obviously leads by example as well. I'm not criticising Harry Kane's quality because he's our leading all-time goal scorer and a world-class player. But in terms of the mentality, Ronaldo wouldn't have stood for it being not a disaster. So I'm not sure why Harry Kane, and there'll be other figures there as well, Lloris and whoever else. They don't have to accept that it's not a disaster, and they can try and drag us through and win games. So Harry Kane saying that, whether it was lost in context, lost in translation, whatever, just came across as a bit funny for me that he seemed to accept that it wasn't a disaster when he was the one on the pitch who could have made a difference. Whereas Bayern Munich, it's easy to say it's a disaster because you're surrounded by world-class players. And let's make no mistake about it, last year, the year before, Son, Kane were our world-class players, and that was it. Bayern Munich got at least 7, 8 in their team. They're my thoughts. But in terms of having a go at Harry Kane, disliking Harry Kane now, which I've seen on Twitter, absolute nonsense in my book. Like, nothing but love for Harry Kane and what he's done at Tottenham. I just thought those comments were a bit weird, certainly because he didn't have to accept that it wasn't a disaster. He could have done something about it and made sure that we didn't lose those games and try and galvanise the team to make sure we didn't lose those games. But it seems to be that it was accepted by all the players there, and Harry Kane's a big game player, or allegedly a big game player, wants to be a big game player, but he seemed to accept that it was okay for us to lose games every now and then, whereas at Bayern Munich now, he's now saying that it's the club mentality. Whereas the club mentality is there, but it's only half of it. It has to be the players and the coach's mentality as well. Like I said, if Ronaldo was at our team and it was deemed that it wasn't a disaster if we lost a couple of matches, he would deem it that it was, and then he'd be trying to galvanise the players and drag us through and make sure we don't lose matches. So I thought that was just slightly odd. And then we come on to Manager and Player of the Month. Double award. Postecoglou, Manager. James Maddison, Player. Both winning the award for August. Absolutely fantastic. We obviously saw in Nuno's... what were your thoughts about Harry Kane's comments as well? Interested to know about that, and the Richarlison news that has come out as well. Interested to know your thoughts on that. But we obviously saw with Nuno, he won Manager of the Year in his first 3 games. We saw what happened there. Very, very different with Postecoglou, I think. It's an attacking footballing game. Fortune favours the brave. If you go out to attack, you're going to score goals. If you go out to just defend, you're probably not going to score that many goals, and you will at some point because you're being negative, concede goals and lose games. Nuno was much more of a negative, pragmatic manager. Postecoglou is much more of a let's go and win the game manager. So I don't think it will make too much difference in that respect like it did with Nuno, where it was a kind of false dawn. You never know, I suppose. You never know. James Maddison, I don't think it will make any difference to him at all. He's a quality player. Absolutely quality. And he showed that at Leicester last year. It was the only reason why they didn't finish stone cold bottom. Injured for about a third of the season. If he hadn't been injured for the whole thing, they probably would have survived because he still maintained good numbers, goals and assists in a really struggling team for only 2/3 of the season. So, yeah, I don't think it would affect him, but absolutely fantastic that Harry Kane leaves, our best ever player, arguably, certainly in Premier League era, leaves. Panic stations. But in the first month of the season, we get the manager. We have the best manager of the month and the best player of the month. So only positive news there. We just got to keep that momentum going. We'll come on to Sheffield United in a bit because that's obviously our next game. But after Sheffield United, we've got 2 games which will kind of tell us, I think, what kind of Tottenham we're dealing with this season. But yeah, definitely manager and player of the month can only be a good thing. I know it was a good thing which turned into a bad thing for Nuno, but like I say, I think with Postecoglou it's completely different. He will still attack. We will still attack. And yeah, I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. Nuno played a very pragmatic, negative game, and that obviously came to bite us when we came against teams who figured that out. And let's move on. Dier and Lloris in the 25-man squad in the Premier League. It was almost like they were being frozen out. Lloris has turned down contract offers from abroad and here or there, Lazio being one of them. Dier had a meeting with Daniel Levy, whoever orchestrated that meeting. I'm not sure whether it was Dier who asked for the meeting or Levy who asked for the meeting. I'm not sure. But yeah, I thought they were being frozen out. But then I guess it is experience to go in there. If you get injuries in central defence or goalkeeper, you have got extra bodies there. But really, those 2 should have been sold in the summer. Sold, loaned out, whatever. Lloris, contract ripped up, free agent, whatever. Either way, they shouldn't, in my book anyway, in my opinion, they shouldn't be at the club. So there shouldn't even be a conversation whether they were being included in the 25 because they should have been in someone else's 25. Like I said, with the central defence, Romero, Van der Ven, if one of them gets injured, we've got rid of Sanchez now. So who's the next in line? Is it Dier? I really hope not. I like Dier as a person. I think he's quite a good guy from what I've seen in interviews and everything like that. But as a footballer, for what we want to achieve, he's just not good enough, I'm afraid. And Lloris, Vicario's done nothing wrong, so he's our number 1 now. Lloris is number 2 at best. But the mistakes he's made in previous seasons and games, certainly last season and the season before, I'd put him in 3rd place now, and potentially you could even put him in 4th if you want an Alfie Whiteman or Brandon Austin to come in. But yeah, I mean, experience, I guess, isn't a bad thing. They're still at the club, so you might as well put them in, but I do worry if they're going to get some serious game time. But with central defence, is Phillips ahead of Dier now? He's been on the bench. Eric Dier hasn't been on the bench at all. So you'd suggest that Phillips is probably ahead of him there. But again, not Premier League tested, no experience in the Premier League. You wouldn't really want him coming on and starting against Arsenal and Arsenal going gung-ho and putting him under pressure. But then Tanganga in his first game against Liverpool, I know it was at home, so slightly different, but didn't seem overawed by Liverpool or Mane. So you never know. You never know. And then we've got Alfie Dorrington, one of the youth players, highly regarded. Going to be a good player, I think. Is he ahead of Dier? I would suggest no. And then in terms of the goalkeeper, Vicario is obviously number one. If he gets injured, is it Forster? Is it Lloris? Is it a Brandon Austin or Alfie Whiteman? One of them's on loan. I can't remember which. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of anger on Twitter that they're in the 25-man squad, but if you can afford to fit them in and everyone else that you want in and should be in is in as well, you might as well put them in just for the experience. But let's make no mistake about it, in my view anyway, they shouldn't be at the club. They should have been sold or let go on a free. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing in that respect, but I guess you can't really freeze them out. Well, you can freeze them out. Look what happens at Man United with Jadon Sancho. Talk about him coming to Spurs as well. I would not take him at all. Obviously, he's not coming with that at the moment anyway because the transfer window is closed. But Brennan Johnson, I think, has got a much better attitude. I'm sure there was talk that at Dortmund or City, where he was before, I think that's where he was, Sancho had attitude issues as well. Now we've seen it on at Man United. So I wouldn't take him at all. He hasn't exactly lit up Man United either. He's had some really good moments, but nothing consistent. So I wouldn't take him. I think Brennan Johnson is far the better, certainly in terms of attitude, and we've seen his quality. He'll only get better. And he's quick, so Ange Postecoglou type player in this system. But yeah, I mean, with the Sancho thing, it's exactly the same as the Dier conversation with Levy, regardless of who orchestrated that. But you speak to the manager. You don't speak behind his back to the chairman, and you don't go on social media and badmouth the manager behind his back. It's just poor from both of them. And yeah, Dier in the squad now, along with Lloris. Be interesting what happens there. I'm sure they'll play at least one game this season. I'll be amazed if they're in the squad and both of them get 0 minutes in the Premier League. I'd be absolutely amazed. But in terms of any substantial amount of minutes, I'd be quite worried. And unless we get injuries, I don't think that will happen. And even if we did get an injury at centre-back, Dier's had his chance. I'd be putting Phillips in to see what he's made of ahead of Dier. But Sheffield United at home. I think this is a must-win game. We've got Arsenal away, Liverpool at home next. And those two games are going to are going to show us what kind of Tottenham we've got. Certainly this Arsenal game. Last year, Arsenal away didn't turn up at all. And at home, we didn't turn up either. Although the away game, first half, I thought the whistle came at the wrong time. When we scored our goal, we needed another 10 minutes, I think we'd have got level. But then Lloris's error then basically changed the game and we collapsed and Emerson had a rush of blood to the head and got sent off. But we didn't really turn up, and certainly at home, didn't turn up at all. We've had Brentford, good team. First game of the season, never easy, certainly away from home. Bournemouth, you'd expect to win. Who else did we have? Manchester United at home. It depends which Man United turn up, but we bossed that in the second half. Manchester United have trouble, so I'd expect to win most of our games at home. Fulham was in the cup, made a load of changes. Burnley, again, you'd expect to win that one. And we had another one as well, and I can't remember who that was against. Let's have a look on BBC Sport. If you're in the comments and you know who that was against, if you want to save me a job and let me know who that was against, I'd most appreciate it. But let's see if I can find that out. Really, I should know this. Burnley, like I say, that we've had. Oh no, I've mentioned them all. Brentford, Man United, Bournemouth, and Burnley. I mentioned them all. How embarrassing. But most of those games you'd expect to get points. And Sheffield United at home, I'd be expecting us to get 3 points as well. Arsenal away, that's going to be who wants it more. I don't think we'll lose that game. I think Postecoglou will make sure they are fired up, which I think was part of the problem last season. Generally in derby games, I think it's about who wants it more. Sometimes it goes to form. Sometimes it goes to form, not always. And the majority of the time it goes to who wants it more. And I'm guaranteed he'll have them fired up. If we can get no injuries against Sheffield United, we've got a week to prepare. I'm not sure if Champions League starts this weekend. This week, sorry. But yeah, Arsenal obviously have to worry about, and Liverpool as well, European games. They don't want to get injuries. They've got to navigate a few competitions. We don't have to do that, which is obviously good for us, although you'd want to be in games. But yes, 20th, which is the Wednesday, they're at home to PSV Eindhoven. 24th is when they're at home to us. In our respect, it's a pity they're not going to Eindhoven on the 20th, because then they'd have travel, but they've got a home game, so there's no travel at all. It's just another game. But they obviously want a good start in that Champions League. So they're going to be putting out, I would expect, their full team in there. They've got Everton this weekend. Will they rest some players? I'm not sure. They'll hope to have a good start and get a comfortable lead, and then they can rest players for that Eindhoven game. But the Eindhoven game, and then the Eindhoven game, they'll hope, being that Spurs are coming next, to have a comfortable start of it, get a healthy lead, and then rest players for the Spurs game. But if it's tight, they can't really afford to rest those players. Plus, they only get 4 days of preparation for the Spurs game because they've got to prepare for the Eindhoven game as well. Now, it doesn't always work out like that. Whoever has the more preparation time wins. But it obviously benefits us. And then Liverpool, we've got next week, the weekend after. That's at home. Again, like Man United, Liverpool are conceding goals. They're not the full package like they were when they won the league and pushing Man City all the way in those seasons. So I'd expect us to win that as well. But these are two teams, the teams we've played so far, maybe Man United aside, although they just didn't perform. The other teams sit back and try and get us on the counter-attack. Generally, Arsenal and Liverpool, I think, are going to attack us. So we go forward, a lot of men forward under Postecoglou. We're going to leave gaps. Other teams, some of the teams that we've played, maybe aren't going to be thinking fully, let's focus on those gaps and go gung-ho and attack those gaps. Arsenal and Liverpool are, I think. So I think we'll concede goals. I mean, we could easily keep 2 clean sheets. Postecoglou has shown with Maddison against Bournemouth playing deep that he's got a bit of tactical nous about him. It's not just one system and then that's it. But I would imagine he'll, certainly at home to Liverpool, he'll be the Tottenham that we've seen this season. So I'd be very surprised if we change for the Liverpool game. But Liverpool, with their attacking prowess, will be able to pick us off if we leave gaps. Same with Arsenal. They're at home. They're going to be attacking because that's what they do. And let me just bring Bobby K in. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, buddy. Sorry I'm late, man. I had to get the little guys ready for school. You know the score, man.
How you doing?
I'm well. Long time no see. How you keeping, man?
Yeah, I'm all right.
How's the new pad?
Well, I've been living here for ages, but I've still got mine, so I've just got to sell it. So I'm essentially.
Oh, you're selling, right. I know you're saying you're moving in with the missus, right? So
yeah.
So congratulations, buddy. Hope that all works out well.
Yeah, cheers. But yeah, how are you doing?
I can't complain, man. It's Friday morning. Football's back finally tomorrow, and
a bit more anti-ball.
Well, we're the opposite of what we were last year, basically. Where we were dreading football games, but now we're excited to see them. We're upset when we don't have football, right? So it's
absolutely
quite the change, the flip, the 180 in a short span. So it's nice to see. Let's just hope it continues, right?
Well, that's what I'm so surprised about. We all knew Postecoglou would change things, but I didn't expect it to be changed within about 2 games and completely flipped over. I thought it would be a bit of a process, but
I think we're going to hit some walls, though. We will hit a wall here and there, and then, of course, the wheels will come off, and everybody will start losing faith, and the people that have doubted him from the beginning will say, "I told you so," this, that, and the other. But
I mean, it's part of football, isn't it?
It's part of it. Yeah, of course. You and I both know we've got. It's going to happen. It's a matter of time, really. But I'm enjoying the ride while we're on it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go over a few things. I've obviously talked about what my thoughts are. I'd be interested to get your thoughts. Firstly, Richarlison, we saw what happened in the international break. I really feel for the guy. Thankfully, I haven't seen any abuse or any criticism of him on Twitter for this. Back last season, missing a chance, criticism should be scoring that goal. Absolutely fair enough. But for this stuff, no, absolutely indefensible if you criticise him for that. And it must be awful for him. Must be a sense of betrayal for someone he trusted or people that he trusted in his circle that he's had to cut loose, and they've shown their true colours. And it's obviously all got on top of him, hence what we saw in Brazil when he got substituted. But what are your thoughts on that? And does that explain why his time at Spurs hasn't really been as fruitful as we were expecting?
I think it's a combination of things for him, obviously. But what the bigger thing is like you said, Chris, right now he's a young man that's obviously going through some sort of mental health issue. If it's related to football, if it's related to home, we don't know. All we can do is, if you really want to support somebody, regardless of what their status is or who they are, he's a human being at the end of the day, and he's a young boy. He's 25 or 26, somebody told me yesterday. So he's just a kid, and we just got to hope for his well-being. That's more important, humanity above football first. I just hope he can sort himself out. I don't know what the issues are, if they're football related or if they're personal. All we can do is wish him well and hope he gets the help he needs. I don't think it's wrong for people to get on him when he's not performing. I don't think it's wrong to criticize a player. I think that's, as a player, that's part of the package you sign up for. When you decide to accept $60,000-$70,000 a week, a year's salary for a lot of people, when you accept that as a week as a paycheck towards doing something, a job, well, that job comes with certain things, and part of that is being blasted in the media, being blasted by your own fans, being blasted by rival fans, being called names, having every decision you make scrutinized, every facial expression of yours from a football game while you're sitting on the bench could be analyzed by people and ripped apart. That's just all part of it, kind of thing. But if you want to attack somebody from a footballing side, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But when you make personal attacks against people, it shows how petty and weak you are. So I'm glad you made that comment that nobody has so far seemed to be attacking him in social media, and I'm glad to hear that, because I don't think you deserve that, especially right now. Especially us, if real fans are going to get behind your player, regardless. Even the likes of Dier and Lloris, I know we're going to get into that in a bit, but there are our team. You know what I mean? Those are the players on our squad right now. You got to get behind them. You don't have a choice. You can criticize them for their performances, but while they're out there wearing that badge, you got to support them. This kid clearly needs a lot of support on and off the field. So let's just hope he gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. And hi, Hotspur in the chat. Morning to you as well. Thanks so much for watching.
Big up, Leo. Good morning, mate. Good morning.
And goes on to say, I've been going through withdrawals due to lack of a handball in my life. Wait one day. You haven't got long. But in terms of attacking players, this guy, he obviously doesn't live there anymore, play for us anymore. Harry Kane's comments, what are your thoughts on that? My personal thing is, it's probably true that it wasn't a disaster due from the hierarchy, but my other thing is, no one forced Harry Kane to accept that it's not a disaster. If Ronaldo walked into our team and played in our team and they said, it's not a disaster if we lose a couple of games, he would see it as a disaster and he'd try and drag the players through. But I mean, in terms of Harry Kane, got nothing against Harry Kane. Love Harry Kane. But what were your thoughts about his comments?
I honestly couldn't care less, Chris.
Yeah.
Don't really care what he has to say. He's gone. He's not a player. He doesn't play for us anymore. Who gives a shit? May he go on and win the titles that he was seeking. That's all I can really hope for him. He uprooted his entire family. It was a difficult decision for him. He's been with us pretty much since he was a child. We go back to the footballing aspect of things. And as a footballer, he had a certain achievement level he wanted to hit before he called it quits on this game. and this was an opportunity for him to achieve the success he's wanted. So how do we fault anybody for that? Do we fault the guy that we work with that's more ambitious than us, that decides to push and go and become a manager and then become a supervisor and then a manager and this and that and go on to own the company one day? I had the same opportunity. I could have pushed myself and maybe done the same, but I chose not to. So if this guy is, it's not like he just turned around this year and said, I'm ambitious. This has been this thing's been going on. This drum's been beat for what, 5-6 years in a row now? So pretty much since he got to that Champions League final, and from there it seems like it was just a consistent agenda that I want to go elsewhere and play. And I don't think it would have mattered who we brought in. I think we could have brought in Neymar, Mbappe, KDB, and stacked them all in there. I really don't. I think he was done. I think what Levy did with him in breaking that so-called gentleman's promise that we all don't know really about. Yeah. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's. Exactly. Yeah. And I don't fault him in terms of his comments. Again, who cares? He's gone on to say that I'm happier here because now I don't have to deal with the pain of defeat in reality. That's all he's saying. I coach kids football. I coach my kids football. Every game you lose hurts. And we're talking about a house league level that they're supposed to be playing for fun. You think my kids don't come home disappointed that evening if they lose and the next day? And we're talking about a regular game, like not even into the playoffs or into the cup games kind of thing. So it's like, you expect them to have some sort of emotion behind it. And if you're losing consistently or losing games that you feel you should win, it's going to eat away at you. And it seems like that's all that happened with him. And now he's on the other side where he's like, we walk over teams that we're expected to beat the way it should be.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's all he's saying.
I mean, Spurs fans hating Harry Kane now did make me laugh on Twitter. If he comes back in 2 years, I'll love him again.
Of course.
Yeah, how the fickleness of football fans playing.
I don't think he'll ever be back personally, Chris, on that.
I think he will. I think he'll definitely be back.
Come back as a player.
Yeah, I mean,
he can handle it in 2 years. He's not going to be able to handle Ange Wall.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I definitely think he'll be back. But it remains to be seen. But speaking of Ange. Manager of the year, Maddison, player of the year. Obviously,
player of the month.
Certainly the manager of the month, certainly kiss of death it was for Nuno. I think it's completely different, though, because Nuno plays negative football, which allows teams to invite onto you. Ange is attacking manager, so fortune favours both. Maddison, I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. Quality player. But, when you talk about who's our manager going to be, another merry-go-round of manager, our best player leaves. And then within the month, manager and player of the year. It's got to be a good thing, but you can't rest on your laurels.
Of the month. You keep saying year. Come on, don't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Did I say year?
You keep saying manager of the year.
Month. But it can only be a good thing.
Now you're doing a Harry Kane, one game at a time, buddy.
But it can only be a good thing, right? All the uncertainty and the negativity, and then we've got these two awards. Just got to take that and carry on with it.
Well, it's exactly, Chris. How many people were not on the Ange train?
I was one of them. I didn't know too much about him, to be honest.
Well, that's it. It's not that I was anti-Ange. I just didn't know enough about him. No. I hadn't seen enough of his football. The one person I'll give credit to, and I still give credit to, was Paul Beatty, the hippie Hotspur there. He was banging the drum about this guy last year.
Ian Meth as well was ever since.
Ian Meth, yeah. Ian Meth was, Ian Meth was always, Shaggy really had a fondness for him. But
and everything that he said would happen has happened.
Happened. Exactly.
He didn't expect it, by his own admission, to happen this quickly. But everything he said that would happen has happened so far.
But that just shows you how that. We all sat there and questioning the quality of the squad. Without Harry Kane, we're crap. Without Harry Kane, we're crap. Blah blah blah. It just shows you that over the last few years, the managers have just shut players down.
Yeah.
Look at Basuma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. Look, he's just like he's emerged from the shadows. It's like that conquering hero that's gone out into the wilderness and brought back the bear skin, lion skin, and everything all together, wearing it on top, saying, "I'm here."
Well, under Conte, he was pretty much literally a beast caged.
Yeah.
And Postecoglou's let him out of the cage and let him do what he wants. And he's that Manchester United game, second half, certainly unbelievable performance, and Sarr as well with him as well. But Basuma, unbelievable in that game. And Conte had that and just didn't utilise it at all. And there'll be countless other players as well.
It was disappointing to see that. When you see a player caged up like that,
Yeah.
And I wonder if the berating of Richie and the caging of Richie from Conte, has that been part of why what's happened to Richie has happened?
Yeah, I mean, gone are the days like Mourinho had John Terry, Drogba, Lampard back in his day. Those type of players, and they were much more common than they are now. Those type of players you can give a bollock into. Same with Alex Ferguson back in the day. You can give a bollock into. These days, players are so pampered and everything. Divas and people. You can't do that because they're much more fragile.
Yep.
And I think Ange is a breath of fresh air in the sense that he is nice to talk to, man management. But if you piss him off, you will know that you've pissed him off and you won't be doing it again. But without the, I'm going to shoot you up against the wall, which I think Conte and Mourinho are kind of dinosaurs in that respect in how to deal with people. And just, you can't do that. They're the old players that you can.
I disagree with that, Chris. I think you can do that. And I think it's the players that are at fault for when they get called out and they can't take it. Because they're the ones without the mentality.
Yeah.
But
if they don't have the mentality, you can't talk to them like that, I don't think.
Our managers at work, our bosses turn around and berate us for a poor performance.
Yeah.
What can we do about it?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just think
and we get paid significantly less. So it's a job. It's a job. And again, part of the job is that your boss is not going to like you today. He's not here to hold. We're paying Conte $15 million or $18 million a year to what? Hold these guys' hands and coddle them and say, you're doing a great job. Well done. Bullshit. No. If you have to rake them over the coals, then do so. I that's one thing I've never I appreciate the fact that there's a certain level you don't throw people under the bus and stuff like that. But if you're shit and you're consistently shit and somebody says you're shit, don't cry about that, because that's just something pointing out a fact.
Yeah, I just think there's a way of saying there's ways that you can say someone's shit, and I think Conte's way was just too. I think he was just too scary and just too authoritarian. Whereas Ange, I think,
direct.
I'm
but
not
they
sure.
got used to being coddled. That's the problem. They got used to having Poch hold their hand, put his arm around them, kind of thing, this and that, and that's what a lot of people are saying is what Richie needs right now. And again, as a human, I agree. As a footballer, I disagree. If you can't handle doing your job, as bad as this sounds, it's not the job for you.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, but I don't think we'll ever agree on this.
No, it's just fair enough, buddy. It's only because I know what I go through for my job.
Yeah.
And there's no sympathy. There's nobody. My boss isn't coming up to me, putting his arm around me, and saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. Out of the 1,500 people you picked up, 200 called you something."
I just think Ange is. Poch, I do think was arm around the shoulder and too nice. Whereas Ange, I think, has got the best of both worlds. He's nice, arm around the shoulder, but he will have a word with you if you piss him off
if needed. Fair enough.
Yeah. The 25, Dier and Levy sin. I know there's been some meltdown on Twitter about this. Your son, Big K, will be delighted with the first one, I'm sure.
Over the moon. Over the moon.
But, in my viewpoint, don't tell him this, but Dier and Levy should have both left the club in the transfer window. They shouldn't be at the club, in my view. But if they're there and you've got space for them, I don't think there's any harm putting them in for the experience. But if Dier is going to be the third in line now, we've got rid of Sanchez. If Romero or Van der Ven get injured, I worry about that. He's been tried and tested in the Premier League. It's proven that he's not up to it where we want to be. Give Phillips a chance over him, and then Dier is best fourth in line. Whether that's the case, I'm not sure. Lovy's exactly the same. Vicario's our number one, done and dusted. If he gets injured, is it Forster? Is it Whiteman or Austin? I'm not sure which one's on loan and which isn't. Or is it Laurie's back in?
I think Austin's already out, isn't he?
Oh, it must be Whiteman who's still there. But or is Laurie's coming in? I'd be worried about that. But if they're just there for the experience and to be in there as last case resort, I don't have a problem with it, other than the fact that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be there. They should be in someone else's 25. But what was your view when you saw that? And
I'm just disappointed that they're still here, especially with Lloris. The fact that we discussed at the beginning of the summer, pretty much 4 or 5 games left in the season last year, he had checked out and said, I'm done.
Yeah.
Why are you still here?
And he rejected the contract
and he's
offers
the
from
one
others as well.
Yep. And then he turned around and says, I'm not going to Nice because I don't want to stump the progress of a young goalkeeper, but I'm going to stay here and do it to the one that's here.
Yeah, I mean, really, with Lloris, rip his contract up. He's free. Yeah. Rip it up. Well, you're a free agent now. You can go and do what you want. Yeah. I'm not sure.
We're going to pay for him to sit there, our former club captain, the man who should have had the most influence in the dressing room, who has now become negative and doesn't want to be there and shouldn't be there, is going to have what kind of positive influence on our dressing room and the youngsters that we've got in there now?
Yeah. I mean, it could be a U-turn. You've seen what happened with Paulinho at Fulham. He wanted to go to Bayern Munich, hasn't. Now he signed a new contract with Fulham. Could be that, but I think, Lloris checked out long ago. I mean, if he's going to be in the coaching staff, it's not a bad person to have in the coaching staff. A world-class goalkeeper in his day, France national captain, 2-time
But
World
Cup doesn't seem like that, though, Chris, because if he wanted to do that, why would he not go do that at Nice?
Yeah. I was disappointed with him turning down the contracts but like I say, Lloris certainly should have ripped his contract up. If he's surplus to requirements, he's free anyway. Just rip it up. And then Dier is just... I would imagine we had to keep Dier just because we sold Sanchez.
I think, what is it? Where are we at with the homegrown numbers too, right? I think with the quota and stuff he adds to that. So there's that point too, right? So
but in terms of Dier, obviously Romero, Van der Ven, they're the top 2. I'd prefer Phillips and then try Dovington as well as the 4th, and then Dier as last case resort number 5. But I'm not sure. And you can stick Ben Davies in there as well if there's no issues with left back.
And Emerson Royale can play centre back, right? If needed.
But in terms of them being in the squad, if they're last resort and just there for experience, I don't have a huge amount of problem with that. But they shouldn't be.
I do if they're going to be toxic. We're looking at the fact that Dier went from not being on the squad, not being selected, not even being on the bench, to turn around and going up to Levy's office and having some sort of a conversation that all of a sudden brings him into the 25-man squad. Yeah. So if players have that kind of influence, and Levy is going to have that kind of influence on the team, we're no further than we really were 23 years ago.
I think something that Postecoglou said ages ago when he took over in his first conference was, if people aren't here for the ride, it won't take long because I won't allow it. So I think if they're going to be toxic, he'll get rid of them. What capacity that would be, whether it would be a Jadon Sancho training on his own situation or just rip their contract up, get rid of them, and then there's a conversation between him and Levy. I'm not sure, but I don't think they'll be toxic in there because I don't think he'll allow it. But again, it remains to be seen. And like we said, keep reiterating, shouldn't be at the club anyway, so it shouldn't even be a conversation that we're having.
But it's like somebody else said, is it quite possible? Now look at the manager merry-go-round that we've had. Is it quite possible that these two hung around knowing that they might outlast the manager and thinking, we'll get a crack with the next one?
Possibly, but...
As scary as that sounds.
Dier possibly. Lloris is he 34, 35 now?
He's like 36, isn't he?
Yeah.
37, isn't he?
I mean, if Postecoglou stays here 3 years, I'm not sure Lloris is going to outlast him. But Dier, and I mean, we turned down a loan deal from Burnley for Dier as well, which I think that would have been a good move for him.
36. Yeah. Well, there's Burnley, and then there's Fulham as well, right? There's that option for him as well.
Why that was turned down, don't know. Whether it was the homegrown thing or Sanchez they knew was leaving. But
well, it's our fault too, Chris. We've kept these guys here too long. They've become part of the furniture.
Yeah.
That's why they don't want to leave. They're comfortable. Don't let players get comfortable. You can't.
Absolutely, yeah. Sheffield United, is it a must-win game? I think well, we've got Arsenal away, Liverpool at home next. I don't think we'll lose to Arsenal. I think Postecoglou will get massively fired up, which was part of our issue last year. Liverpool at home, they're beatable. They're beatable. But I think Arsenal, Liverpool will tell us what kind of Spurs we have this season. And you said it at the start when you came on, the wheels will fall off at some point. It's very possible that 0 points out of them 2 games. Sheffield United, I'd be expecting us to win that, with all due respect to Sheffield United, but at home. Is it must win? And what do you see for the Arsenal and Liverpool games?
Oh, I think if somebody says that this game is a must win, they're absolutely insane. They're crazier than I am, and I don't know crap. We're 5 games into the season. Jesus, there is no must win. But that being said, every game is a must win, because what's going to happen is look at the reaction after the Fulham loss. My God, people calling for Ange's head and stuff. Wow.
I didn't see any of that, but I'm still annoyed about that, because that was a real opportunity for us to progress without Europe, and I'm not sure 9 changes were needed. But yeah, to say I'll get rid of him is just...
He made a mistake. Let's just hope he learned from it. Because it seems like our other managers made mistakes and they didn't learn from them.
Yeah,
they kept making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So
but to say I'll get him out of the club is just, just
ridiculous. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers. I don't think it's must win. I do think it is. I'll go for a win, though. Like, we should be going for it and hoping that we're getting the win. I don't think Sheffield are as easy as everybody thinks. I watched that Man City game, and they gave Man City a game. They made it hard for the champions to get by. Now, arguably, you could say that City's lost a little bit of their edge, especially without. I don't think. No, I think that's the game. I think that's the game De Bruyne got injured, though, so he was playing. But regardless, they're not an easy team. They play that low block system thing that everybody keeps talking about that I still haven't figured out what the hell it is. And just being honest, man, they do that and everything. So it's just going to come down to really how Maddison and Bissouma and everything, they come back, how players are coming back after this international break. And it seems like we came out injured free. So there were a few scares.
The challenge on Romero, I can't believe he's not injured for that. It looked... it's possibly one of those ones that I only saw a picture of it, so it looked horrendous when...
Everything slowed down looks bad, Chris.
Yeah.
Everything slowed down looks bad. I got a video of me hitting a curb, going flying head first over my bicycle a few years back. And I landed, smoked right head onto the side of the curb, went skidding about another 20 feet and everything. Got up on a scrape on my elbow. And my son's looking at me, had that little GoPro thing on his helmet. He's looking at me like, little K, right? He's like, Dad, are you okay? Yeah, we're good. Let's go. Bike was fine, everything. So a couple of spokes at the front broke. That was it. But if you slowed that down, like when we watched it's like, wow, you see my head doing this and that, and my body this way, that way. And I'm like, I'm too old to move like that. So boy might be tougher than we thought. And he's putting on some bulk now as well, being in the Premier League now, and he knows he's got to bulk up. And I think he's been fantastic. He's calmed down quite a bit. He's not making those stupid rash decisions. And
what's that down to? The fact that he's got a good partner now, the fact that he's got a bit of maturity because Postecoglou's vice captained him, or a bit of both, or would you
you forgot the third combination as well. I think it's everything you just said and Postecoglou, where the system is different now and everything, and the expectations are different. And like you said, he's building a trust foundation around him. Our defense, what night and day from where we finished off just a few months ago to where we are now. So, but I credit Van de Ven more than Romero in that, because what an addition he's been. He's just been magic, like Chris's magic. Huh? You see what I did there? Make sure you get over and like and subscribe.
Cheers, buddy. But yeah, I also think as well a couple of other things. We played in a 3 last year. He was on the right. It's not always the case, but generally the one in the centre is the leader in that defence, and it wasn't him. It was someone far, far inferior to him. So I can imagine that was a bit of a source of frustration. And also the fact that we've got a playmaker in James Maddison now, and Bissouma, who can keep the ball. And under Pochettino, we had about 60% possession on average, largely most games. There are obviously games that we didn't. And it's similar now, whereas under last season, it was around 30. So the defence are constantly under pressure because the ball's constantly coming back. Whereas now they have a lot more respite because Basuma, Maddison will keep the ball. And the way that we're playing, there's a lot more onus on attacking football, which is obviously away from the defence. So I think, we've seen what happened with Van Dijk as well at Liverpool, constantly under pressure. He makes mistakes as well. It happens to the best of them. So I think there's a huge number of reasons why he's calmed down, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. And he seems like a really nice bloke as well. We've all seen the comments from his dad on his first paycheck. Took his dad round a house, and his dad goes, "Oh, when you moving in?" He said, "I'm not. You are.
You are. Yeah. I like that. Yeah."
I mean, good for his parents as well. They've obviously kept him grounded as well, and yeah. So he seems like a really nice guy, and I think it was largely down to frustration last year. Looking back at it now, but he's added goal scoring to his game as well. What a wonderful finish against Burnley as well. Which that has to be confidence that the way we're playing, the manager, the Van de Ven next to him.
Look where he was when he took that. Look where he was when he took that shot.
Yeah.
As a centre back outside their box.
Yeah, fantastic finish. And if we can keep those two fit, Basuma fit and Maddison fit, obviously Basuma's out for possibly a month because of the African Cup of Nations, but those four, I think, are crucial to how... I put Vicario in there as well, at the way he started at the moment, just because the Forster's older, a bit too slow, and Loris makes mistake after mistake. But those four, I think, are crucial. If we can keep them fit and playing well, I think we can have a good season. And Basuma out, Sarr out as well. Sarr for Senegal, I'd expect him to be out for the majority of the tournament.
Yep, and then Sonny as well.
Yeah, and yeah, it then requires Bentancur to slot back in and not be.
And that's the time that's the time that he should be 100% fit by, right? So
yeah,
nice.
Well, I thought he was coming back November time, but I don't know where I've seen that. It's not
no, that was the projected right from the injury. They'd said 8 months or something like that, and that put it around November. So I think everybody's just kind of stuck with the same timeline for some reason.
Yeah, so hopefully he can slot back in because we'll need that, because Sarr and Basuma have been fantastic this season so far.
And we still got Højbjerg there, so this is why I don't understand why people get on Højbjerg so much. He might not be the flashiest player, but he is the kind of guy that gets the job done. You know,
to be fair, he might end up playing even better now because he's had the long overdue rest. He's played pretty much every game for about 2 seasons straight, and that includes Denmark games as well.
And he doesn't have to play 90 minutes every game now. We need him. Basically, it seems like he's being used as our shutdown man, where he comes in at the last 15, 20 minutes of a game to just solidify the line in front of the defense and hold the lead that we've already got. So if that's going to be the case for him, and that's how we're going to utilize him, by all means, carry on.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a lot more positive than it was last season. And it's just good to have a bit of entertainment again rather than a snore fest.
It's just nice to be excited.
Yeah, yeah. Rather than a cure for insomniacs, which it was last year.
I can't tell you how many games I fell asleep.
No,
I honestly can't, Chris.
No, well, I went to quite a few games, and I was just chatting to the guy next to me for majority of the game. I didn't really watch a huge amount of it, but unfortunately,
it was painful.
Yeah. But we come on to Sheffield United now. How will the game pan out, and your predictions for it? I think they'll sit back, similar like they did to Man City, and it's about if we can get an early goal. At some point, they've got to come out and try and score, and then we can pick them off. The longer it goes on 0-0, the more confidence they'll get, and then we might end up trying and pushing too hard. But I always back us to win. I always back us not to keep a clean sheet. Regardless of the fact our defence looks a lot more solid, Vicario looks a lot more solid than last season, but I can't do a score because that's too much tempting fate. But I'll say we'll get a win, but we'll concede a goal. I think we'll get an earlier goal as well within the first 20, 25 minutes, and that should hopefully set us up for the game. What do you think? How will the game pan out? And what are your predictions?
I think we'll come out guns blazing. I think if we're this excited as fans, I've gotta make the assumption that the players are excited to get back on the pitch too and get Antoine rolling again. Yeah. we got Johnson that's going to come into the fold as well. So let's hope that he gets unleashed for a few minutes, and let's see what this kid has to offer. And I'm looking forward to it. But like you said, I think it's going to be a dirty, kind of very slug it out kind of game. It's going to be held a lot in the midfield. I think they're going to be very hard to break down, and I think they'll just try to use their counterattacks against us. And like you said, I think they will end up getting one out of that. I will give my prediction. I think it's going to be 2-1. So I think we will get the job done, but I don't think it's going to be an easy one, and I don't think it's going to be a pretty watch. But I think we should be able to get the job done. At least I hope we can.
Yeah, as long as we win, I couldn't really care less. But
yeah.
Any changes? Obviously, we had the team who came out against Burnley, started against Burnley and battered them. Son up top, obviously. I don't think there'll be any changes unless there are things that we're not aware about in terms of international football knocks and tiredness. But I would expect it to be the same team that started against Burnley. Try and get a healthy lead, and then you can, talk about changes and rest in players.
Just that, Chris. Why are we messing around with our starting 11 if we don't need to? We don't need to worry about midweek games and stuff really right now. There's nothing else for us to shoot for. Put all our eggs in one basket and go for it. Let's have this 11 gel to the point where everybody in the world is afraid to come and take us on.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see him making any changes unless, like I say, there are niggles.
Johnson maybe for Kulu.
Yeah.
That's the only one I could see maybe happening, just to see. But I think I'd rather see Kulu starting Johnson coming off the bench and add that little bit if we need it, right? Because I think he's more likely to come on and add something than Kulu is to come off the bench and add something.
Yeah.
Just the pace, just the pace factor, right? So
it'd be interesting to see Johnson. I saw him a few times at Forest last year, and he didn't look like a player who's short of any kind of confidence.
That's good. That's what we need.
Yeah, and then talk about Richarlison starting ahead of Son. When you've scored a hat trick, I don't think you can be dropped or moved.
No,
it's up to Richarlison now to force Son out of that position and force Postecoglou.
I just hope that putting Richie on the bench doesn't traumatize him more than he's already impacted. Clearly, obviously.
Well, I think he needs a bit of time out of the five. If he starts or plays and doesn't score, he's going to get criticism on Twitter. I think he needs to be taken out of the firing line a little bit and just concentrate on yourself.
Yeah, I don't think he should be on the squad in the squad tomorrow, but we don't have a choice. He will be on the bench at minimum.
Yeah. Concentrate on yourself. Get yourself. I'm taking you out of the firing line. You won't get any footballing criticism because you're not going to be playing any minutes.
Can't get criticised for something you don't do wrong. So
yeah. But I hope he's all right because I do quite like Richarlison, and he always gives you 100%, which is the bare minimum what a fan asks, isn't it? Give 100% for the badge.
Well, he's got that little annoyance to him too that you hate when he's an opposing player, but you love when he's your player, right? So, and we haven't really seen that from him this year. So, something's been off right from the get-go. So, good luck to you, young man. Hopefully, you get it sorted.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll pretty much end it there. That's the Friday lunch hour, just under an hour. So, pretty much the hour. Please hit the like, subscribe, notification bell if you haven't done so already. If you like a bit of magic, jump over to Chris's Magic. That's Wednesdays at 7:30. That goes on. It's not live, but it drops on 7:30. And jump over on Twitter to YouTube, to 3 Spurs Boys. What can people expect?
Oh, we'll be back tomorrow night with our usual nonsense, Coov and the Kang, where we have our. It's more like I like to liken it to the pub show where you're just kind of sitting around with your mates talking football, having a little bit of laugh, playing a few games. It's just a nice way to enjoy the Saturday evening, and of course, get on over to 3 Spurs. I can't even say our own channel name. 3 Spurs Boys. Give us a like and subscribe there. The number 3 Spurs Boys, and Chris, got to talk to you about it too. Got to get you on the show as well one night, man.
Absolutely. I'll be
when you're allowed to stay up that late.
Yeah.
You start at 10:30 start, right?
Yeah, it's quite difficult on Saturdays, but. I'm quite loud, and then she can't sleep during that.
Well,
but
she's got to get used to it now that you're living together. So
that's true. But I'll definitely come on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll definitely come on at some point. Obviously, if you have me on, but it's a bit difficult on Fridays, Saturdays.
Of course, man. Of course.
Yeah,
we'll sort it out soon.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. And thanks so much for coming on. I know it's early where you
Appreciate
are.
you having me, yeah.
Appreciate it. Oh, a pleasure.
Yeah, sorry I was late. I had to get these guys off to school first, right?
Oh, no worries at all.
Law requires you feed your children here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Some people. But yeah, that's basically what's happening in the international break, and a preview to Sheffield United. Be back on Monday for Monday Night Fan Zone. Hopefully talking about a win. But we'll catch you there. Have a good weekend. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Thanks so much for watching. For everybody who joined in the live chat and added comments, before you go, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, please hit that notification bell. That'll give you a notification every time we're about to go live, and it's all completely free. For those who missed the live show, you can catch this whenever you want on Let's Talk Tottenham's YouTube channel. Please also hit the like, subscribe and notification bell, and everybody please leave feedback, comments, suggestions in the comments section on the YouTube videos. For those of you who listen to the audio podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anyone who wants that audio podcast should pick that up wherever you get your podcast from. We're back Mondays 7:30pm UK time and Fridays 12:30pm UK time. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter @LTalkTottenham, Instagram Let's Talk Tottenham Podcast, you can find all the information there. Anyone who wants something a little bit different, also do a magic show. So I do one trick a week, which drops Wednesday 7:30pm UK time. Chris's Magic on YouTube is where you'll find that. But in the meantime,